The impact of natural hair on the African American identity and individual identity and generational trauma in Unat Diaz's literature. African Americans have been targeted throughout history and forced to conform to their hairstyles to better assimilate into white society. In African societies, hair was very important because it distinguished people from different social statuses and tribes. When colonization started, Africans were forced into slavery, and in a symbolic act meant to strip them of their heritage and culture, slave traders often covered or shaved their heads. After the abolition of slavery, African Americans were expected to conform to white culture by straightening their hair, and Black entrepreneurs made millions creating hair products designed for Black people to straighten their hair. Throughout that time period, there were debates as to whether or not these products caused more self-hatred among African Americans. In the 1970s, the afro was introduced as a symbol of Black pride, which inspired African Americans to take back their natural hair and to reject the beauty standards of white society. This later formed into the natural hair movement, which continues to fight modern-day discrimination against natural hair. In the same way that African Americans have struggled with their identity, the characters in Unat Diaz's works face the same struggle, in the Dominican community specifically. This struggle stems from traumatic experiences that are not discussed both for the individual and for the entire culture, like the DR under the rule of Trujillo. Diaz is a Dominican American author whose novels explore the toxic masculinity present in Dominican culture. Diaz points out that it can be very harmful to one's identity because there is a pattern of neglect of past trauma that can lead to generations of untreated pain, and the cycle continues. For example, in Diaz's The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde, Diaz's protagonists are blind to this vicious cycle until it becomes apparent to them that these are not coincidences, but rather a curse. Throughout his novel and short stories, Unat Diaz shows how the identity of the individual is shaped not only by their relationships with society in the present, but also by their cultural and personal trauma passed down through generations.